Now, we've learned about the blues progression, so now let's take a look at certain tones that really give that bluesy sound in your playing. These are called the blues notes. And the blues notes are certain pitches from the major scale that give any melodic line you're playing a characteristically bluesy sound. Now, can you hear how certain notes that I played really give that blues sound? These are the blues notes. These notes are adjusted slightly from their normal major scale position. So let me show you what I mean on written music first. Here is a C major scale with each note numbered. And the notes in particular that we're going to mess around with are the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th steps of the major scale. The blues notes are derived from these 3 steps of the major scale. So in order to get that bluesy sound in your playing, you've got to lower each of these steps a half step. So here's what you need to remember. The blues notes are the flatted 3rd, the flatted 5th, and the flatted 7th. Each of these 3 tones brings different colors to your sound. So let's experiment with this a bit. Let's talk about the 3rd first. In the blues, the 3rd can be left normal. Let's say if we're in C, this would be the 3rd. Or it could be flatted. And they can be flipped between interchangeably. Just because I play the blues doesn't mean that I can't use the normal 3rd sometimes. But sometimes if I want to, I can throw it in and use the flatted 3rd as well to color things how I'm wanting them to go. For example, if I'm in C, I can play licks using the 3rd, which would be E, and I can play the flatted 3rd, which would also be an E flat. So if I use the regular 3rd, let's say, there's that 3rd there. If I could do the same lick and use the flatted 3rd. Hear the difference between the 2 sounds. There's the flatted 3rd. There's the major 3rd, or the regular 3rd. That flatted 3rd, that E flat, really gives it that bluesy sound. Now sometimes players get into the habit of only using the flatted 3rd when they're playing the blues, and they end up limiting their sound, and all of their licks end up sounding the same. Now you can use either one, the normal 3rd or the flatted 3rd, depending on the musical situation that you're in. The flatted 3rd is going to bring that bluesy sound, but it still can be used in conjunction with the regular 3rd. So here's the rule. The flatted 3rd and the normal 3rd can be used interchangeably depending on the sound that you want to get. Okay, now let's skip the 5th for a second and go right to the flatted 7th blues note. The flatted 7th works as a color tone just like the flatted 3rd, but it has an important difference. Here's the rule. When playing the blues, never use the normal 7th. Always use the flatted 7th. Now if you use the normal 7th in blues, it just stops being the blues. It starts sounding more like the Bee Gees than the blues. So the normal 7th is just too pretty sounding for the blues. Now let me show you what I mean. Let's play a blues in C, and I'll show you the difference between those, the normal 7th, which would be B, and the flatted 7th, which would be B flat. Here we go. 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we're in C. Now if I use the normal 7th, it's just too pretty sound. I could use the flatted 7th. Let's see what that sounds. There's that B flat. Now that sounds more bluesy. I can dance around on that major 7th if I wanted to, but I just don't want to land on it too much. Great. Now the flatted 7th is the tone that makes the blues the blues. That's that flatted 7th in there. So so far we've covered the flatted 3rd. There's the flatted 3rd. Then we've covered the flatted 7th, or sometimes called the dominant 7th. It's that note. Now the one we haven't covered, Let's go back and talk about the last of our blues notes, the flatted fifth. This one's a little bit more complex on how you should use it. The flatted fifth works like the flatted third does, so you can use it in conjunction with the regular fifth. But here's the one thing to remember. The flatted fifth has a very strong sound that wants to resolve either down to the fourth or up to the fifth. If I'm in C, there's the fifth, here's the flatted fifth. So I don't just want to land on it, it wants to go either down to the fourth or up to the fifth. So you just don't want to hang on it for too long. It's just too dissonant and it just screams to be resolved. Well, let's play that blues again, and I'll talk about the fifth as we're playing it. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, there I am on the regular fifth. Kind of sliding up using that flatted fifth. See, I use it to color with. I don't want to necessarily land on it. It just sounds too dissonant. Let me just play around with it a little bit more. See, I can kind of bend from it, but I just don't want to land on it. Great. So think of the flatted fifth as the jalapeno juice of the blues. Just a little bit and it gives a lot of flavor, but too much of it is going to ruin the sound of what you're trying to create. So the rule for flatted fifths is use the flatted fifth as much as you want, just make sure to resolve it.